You've clarified your document's objective, to explain or persuade. You've identified your primary reader, and you've created a message, the single most important point you want to make in the document. You're ready to move on now to the next stage of planning, which is to create a structure of ideas. We have to engage in two stages of thinking. First stage thinking, which is the thinking we do when we're working out what we're looking at, and second stage thinking, which is the thinking we do when we're working out what to do about it. There's very little technology to help us with first stage thinking, but one technology that's very useful is brain mapping, more commonly called mind mapping. Mind maps have been around for a very long time, but in modern times the person who probably has done more to promote mind maps than anyone else is Tony Buzan. You'll find out more about him in our resource centre and indeed on the web. So first stage thinking means drawing a mind map to gather your thoughts together and see what shape emerges. How do you draw a mind map? Well, take a piece of paper and write your message sentence, or better still, draw a picture representing your message sentence in the middle of that piece of paper in a balloon. Now we draw lines radiating out from the centre of this balloon. Mind mapping is often called radiant thinking because our ideas move in all directions from a central point. Along those lines, write words, single words in block capitals, that represent the main areas of interest for your report, the main areas of information. Continue in this way, making sure that each line that you draw with a word on it connects either to another line or to the centre of the map, until you've exhausted your thinking, until you can think of nothing else to add to your map. Make sure that your map is colourful. Use different design features, pictures, drawings, doodles, highlighting, anything to make your map look more interesting, colourful and vivid. When you've finished, you'll see that your map has a small number of main branches around the central message. Those will represent your sections in the report. And then we can move on to grouping and summarising, which is the thinking we use at the second stage of thinking in producing our report. So take your mind map and write down a series of headings that relate to the main branches radiating out from the centre. Then try to write sentences that are the points you want to make under each heading. Look at the list of sentences that you've written, put them underneath your message sentence. Do they adequately support that sentence? Do they expand upon it meaningfully and interestingly? You're on the way to creating a structure of ideas. So, we can be a little more rigorous in the creating of our pyramid. Take your message, put it in a box at the top of a piece of paper. Now imagine speaking that message to your reader. It should provoke a question, or an imaginary question, in your reader's mind. And that question will be one of three possible questions: why, how, and which ones. The key points, the sentences you've written down based on the branches of your mind map, need to be answers to that question. So your message provokes a question. It is only one question, one of three: why, how, or which ones. And your key points, the sentences that you've grouped underneath the message, need to be answers to that question. So we've created a pyramid. There's a message at the top and a small number of key points supporting that message underneath. We can also call this process grouping and summarising, because we've created a group of ideas and a summarising idea on the level above them. Now, there are three rules for creating pyramids of ideas. When you think about the question that your message provokes, you must have at least two answers to that question, because you're creating a group of ideas to support the message. So one answer to the question simply won't do. There must be at least two of them. Secondly, you should aim to have not more than 6 or 7 key points to support your message. Why? Well, because the human brain seems to be able to hold about 6 or 7 pieces of information simultaneously and no more. So if you offer your reader more than 6 or 7 key points on this line of the pyramid, then it's possible that you'll confuse them. Finally, Your key points must all be sentences, proper grammatical sentences, and all of the same kind. In other words, they must all answer the question that your message has provoked. So grouping and summarising lets you manage the detail in your document. You can create layers of ideas. We've created one layer so far, the key points supporting the message. Clearly we can create another layer which would be made up of sub-points, and we do that in exactly the same way. Each key point provokes a question. The question will be one of 3, why, how, or which ones, and our sub-points will be answers to that question. And we could continue again. Sub-points themselves could provoke questions which provoke groups of answers. So where do we stop? Well, your pyramid probably shouldn't contain more than 4 levels: message, key points, sub-points, and minor points. Secondly, you should stop building the pyramid if an idea that you write down provokes a question to which you have perhaps only one answer. Remember, when you go down a level, you must create a group of ideas. And it can stop, of course, if you write down an idea which provokes no question in the reader's mind. So, pyramid building allows us to manage the detail in our pyramid, but we also have to keep the process of pyramid building under control so that our pyramid doesn't become too large and unwieldy. So that's how we organise our ideas in groups vertically. But what about horizontally? How do we order our ideas in sequences? Well, the main ideas in your report may not need to be in any particular sequence. They may simply be of all equal importance. But you can order ideas horizontally or sequentially in broadly 3 ways. The first is by rank. The first idea may relate to the second because it's bigger. The second is bigger than the third. The first may be more important than the second. The first may be more costly than the second, and so on. Secondly, we can organise our ideas chronologically or according to time. Maybe event 1 happened before event 2 in an account of what happened, or event 1 has to happen before event 2 in a set of instructions, for example. And finally, we can organise our ideas horizontally according to logic. You have to understand idea 1 before you understand idea 2, and put those two together to create a conclusion perhaps in idea 3. So, those are the 3 ways in which we can organise our ideas horizontally. So let's summarise where we've got to. We've created a purpose for our report to explain or persuade, we've identified a reader, and we've identified a message. To create a structure of ideas, we need to do thinking in 2 stages. First stage thinking, which is essentially mind mapping, gathering our thoughts together and seeing how they fall out. And then grouping and summarising, or pyramid building, which is organising our ideas into a coherent structure. To create that structure, we work on a kind of conversational principle. The message provokes a question in the reader's mind. That question is one of 3. Why, how, or which ones? Our key points must be answers to that question. We can create layers, further layers in our pyramid in exactly the same way. We shouldn't create more than 4 layers: message, key point, sub-point, minor point, and we can stop building the pyramid whenever we have an idea that provokes a question to which we only have one answer, or whenever we have an idea which does not provoke a question at all in the reader's mind. We can also organise our ideas horizontally, 1, 2, 3, in 3 ways: ranking, chronologically or by time, and logically. And very often the horizontal order of our ideas is not critical. Once we've created this structure of ideas, we can begin to move on to the next stage of planning.